gentlemen, we are all heavily indebted to the tremendous energy and dedication of Faye and Carl Rodney for convening this annual Caribbean Multinational Business Conference during a period of unprecedented turbulence and rapidly evolving challenges in the entire global landscape. Recently, the West Indies cricket team has not been performing in accordance with our traditional high standards. So a change of the usual batting arrangements is in order. This year, the organizing committee has afforded me the privilege of opening the first working session. But there is an even more compelling reason for this privilege. The theme of this conference is conceived to look at the impact and development market in Africa, the Caribbean, and the emerging market of people of color in the United States. This topic fits it admirably within the objectives of our Institute for Africa-Caribbean Advocacy that seeks to promote the development of the people of Africa, the Caribbean, and the African diaspora. To achieve this, we focus on mobilizing the diaspora, Africa, and the Caribbean in the fields of trade, investment, science, sports, culture, and entertainment. We are seeking to enhance the ongoing intergovernmental relations by engaging civil society through a people-to-people connection. We at the Institute are therefore grateful for this opportunity of partnership in this august gathering of elected officials, leaders in business and civil society as we address the pressing societal changes of frontier markets. My presentation will seek to establish the framework for using trade as an engine of economic growth and sustainable development within a rules-based multilateral trading system. Those who follow will outline a number of initiatives in progress and detail what we are called upon to do. While Africa and the Caribbean constitute 1/3 of the WTO membership, we account for less than 4% of global trade. Africa's share is below 3%, and Caribbean countries are about 0.5. We cannot be content to remain at the periphery of the system and must resolve to enter a new frontier in all 6 regions of Africa. Africa is presently confronting a combination of crises, both traditional and contemporary. The long legacy of colonialism still has a debilitating grip, stifling the continent's enormous development potential. The challenges faced by African and Caribbean countries in the multilateral trading system have been exacerbated by the COVID crisis. Some estimates indicate that Africa has lost a decade of economic growth and development as a result of reduced export earnings for commodities and falling remittances. Caribbean countries have not been spared, as most of our economies have been hit by the tremendous costs of the COVID response measures, an avalanche of natural disasters, and the adverse consequences of the Russia-Ukraine war. The level of indebtedness has increased, putting at risk the gains that were made in the last decade. As with all transformative campaigns, the start has to begin with a vision. We have had such a vision for a very long time. Marcus Garvey outlined the pooling of the finance of the African diaspora in the Americas and the human resource expertise of the Caribbean with the natural resources and abundant workforce of Africa to unshackle trade. Integral to the realization was ownership of the production, shipping, and distribution by Africans and the peoples descended from Africa. The critical kernel of Garveyism is that enough financial capital resides among the globally dispersed peoples of Africa. Self-finance is key to controlling our economic process ourselves. We have for too long been prevented from benefiting fully from our inalienable right to economic freedom, economic self-determination, economic sovereignty, and economic justice. Rights are not given, they are attained and concretized by struggle. This will have to involve Africa and those of African descent asserting a role as change agents to alter the existing lopsided international economic order and the archaic global governance arrangements. Our discussion today occurs with the existence of Africa's self-prescription to foster its own initiative for intracontinental trade with the African Continental Free Trade Area and the contemplation of an eventual movement towards a common market as mooted at the extraordinary meeting of the Council of Ministers in Gabon earlier this year. This opens the door for African and Caribbean countries to strengthen their bilateral trade and economic relations through a high quality and ambitious trade agreement covering trade in goods, trade in services, and investment between them. The linking of CARICOM and AFCAFTA would provide mutual economic benefits for African and Caribbean countries, and also strengthen the cultural and historic bonds between them. A synergistic trade agreement would provide access to a huge market for Caribbean countries and also give African countries access to the expertise in certain areas where Caribbean countries have an advantage, such as tourism. It would also strengthen our negotiating positions in the WTO and other multilateral fora. There are two imperatives to encourage the expansion of trade with Africa. First, progressively remove the barriers and inconvenience by national governments which impede business flows. This has to be tackled by listening to the impediments which the business sector encounters in the conduct of trade. Secondly, we have to effect improvements in transportation, in particular shipping, but also air travel, as trade in tourism, entertainment, culture, and other services requires the movement of people. Development economics has revealed that under conditions of fair and equitable trade, developing countries can accelerate their economic growth and with judicious nurturing, stimulate the more comprehensive process of economic development. This can be effectively accomplished by promoting the expansion of trade between Africa, the Caribbean, and its diaspora. While the constraints of transportation and infrastructure will not easily be alleviated, there is the untapped potential of trade by internet. Digital connectivity can directly affect the productivity of firms, of workers, and information inputs in the production, marketing, and distribution process. Use of digital technologies has grown exponentially. Business services, financial services, policy consultancy, and the exchange of the arts in all its forms are rapidly expanding. Caribbean music is now a global genre. There's so much more that can be gained from the blue economy in the Caribbean and coastal areas of Africa. The prerequisite is for Africa and the Caribbean to be vigorous in defense of the resources of the ocean, the protection from degradation and pollution, and promoting any development increase on a sustainable basis in an era of galloping climate change. In this regard, there needs to be joint study of the climate connection between Africa and Caribbean weather. For example, the sargassum weed, its dangers, and its possible convertibility to positive usage. Instead of cataloging once again the difficulties, let us in this conference be purposeful and forward-looking. The 6 regions and the diaspora together are rich in natural resources and have abundant, tremendous human talents. Hope is an essential state of mind, but we also need a sense of purpose. Through a new raft of fair arrangements for international economic engagement, we can lift millions out of poverty. Employing the combined human, natural, financial, and technological resources is the catalyst that can bring the evident potential to fruition. A new horizon beckons. It is high time to mobilize our creative skills and collective resources in a sustained push to drive inclusive growth for our own upliftment, our own benefit, and our own prosperity.